27. Division of a question. When a motion relating to a single subject contains several parts, each of which is capable of standing as a complete proposition if the others are removed, the parts can be separated to be considered and voted on as if they were distinct questions, by adoption of the motion for division of a question, or to divide the question. There are also certain motions which must be divided on the demand of a single member, in which case a formal motion to divide is not used. See 27:10-11. The 8 characteristics below apply only to the incidental motion for division of a question. Standard descriptive characteristics. The incidental motion for division of a question, 1, takes precedence over the main motion and over the subsidiary motion to postpone indefinitely. If applied to an amendment, it also takes precedence over that amendment, but a motion to divide the main question cannot be made while an amendment to the main question is pending. It yields to all subsidiary motions except postpone indefinitely, amend, and limit or extend limits of debate, to all privileged motions, and to all applicable incidental motions. Although it is preferable to divide a question when it is first introduced, a motion to divide can be made at any time that the main motion, an amendment to which it is proposed to divide, or the motion to postpone indefinitely is immediately pending, even after the previous question has been ordered. 2. Can be applied to main motions and their amendments if they are susceptible to division. See below. No subsidiary motion can be applied to it alone except amend, and for the purpose of stopping its amendment, the previous question. But while it is pending, the main question can be committed, postponed, or laid on the table, and it then undergoes the same process for the main question. 3 is out of order when another has the floor. 4 must be seconded. 5 is not debatable, but see 43:31-32 regarding allowable explanation of an undebatable motion. 6 is amendable. 7 requires a majority vote, and 8 cannot be reconsidered. Further rules and explanation. Specification of the manner in which the question is to be divided. The motion to divide must clearly state the manner in which the question is to be divided. While the motion to divide is pending, another member can propose a different division by moving an amendment. If several different proposals are made, they are treated as filling blanks. That is, they are voted on in the order in which they were proposed, unless they suggest different numbers of questions, in which case the largest number is voted on first. 1292-113. Usually, however, little formality is involved in dividing a question, and it is arranged by unanimous consent. Motions that cannot be divided. A motion cannot be divided unless each part presents a proper question for the assembly to act upon if none of the other parts is adopted, and unless the effect of adopting all of the parts will be exactly the same, no more nor less, as adoption of the compound main question. Thus, if it is moved to establish a committee and give it instructions, this motion is indivisible because, should the part establishing the committee fail, the part giving the committee instructions would be absurd. Similarly, if a single motion proposes a series of amendments to something previously adopted, Chapter 35, existing bylaws, for example, and all the individual amendments must be made, if any one of them is made in order for the document being amended to be coherent, then the motion cannot be divided. For the same reason, multiple conforming amendments to a pending motion, as described in 1215, cannot be divided. Another type of motion that cannot be divided is one whose parts are not easily separated. The division cannot require a rewriting of the resolution beyond an essentially mechanical separation of it into the required parts. If possible, the division should be carried out by no more than a renumbering of phrases or clauses, prefacing each part with the formal worded words that, resolved that, or ordered that, dropping conjunctions where necessary, or replacing pronouns with the nouns for which they stand, with or without the definite article the, as required. Depending on how the compound main motion or resolution is worded, however, it may sometimes be necessary to repeat words in more than one part, which, in the main motion, appear only once and apply to more than one element of the proposed division. Also needed in this connection may be slight corrections in syntax or phrase structure, in order to render each part as a complete grammatical sentence, free of awkward wording. These adjustments are permissible, provided care is taken to preserve exact logical equivalence of statement and no new language is introduced. For example, suppose that the following resolution is pending. Resolve that the Society congratulate its members Ernest Dunn on his novel Crestwood, and that 3 copies be purchased for the Society library. Suppose also that a member wishes to divide the question so as to consider the purchase of the book separately. The first divided part would obviously be, resolve that the Society congratulate its member Ernest Dunn on his novel Crestwood. The second part, with the wording adjusted, no more than necessary to avoid awkwardness, would have to read, resolve that 3 copies of the novel Crestwood by the Society's member Ernest Dunn be purchased for the Society's library. The phrasing of the second part involves both types of modification described in the last 3 sentences of the preceding paragraph. As indicated in the subsection, of separating the elements of action of proposed resolution would require recasting the parts more than desired above, the resolution cannot be divided. Striking out part of an indivisible motion or series of motions. When a question is indivisible and a member is opposed to a portion of it, he can seek the desired result by moving to strike out, Chapter 12, the part to which he is opposed. In like manner, when a series of resolutions is proposed to substitute for another series, the substitute series is indivisible if the several resolutions are not completely parallel, but a motion can be made to strike out of the series any of the component resolutions before the vote is taken on whether to make the substitution. Motions that must be divided on demand. Sometimes a series of independent resolutions or main motions dealing with different subjects is offered in one motion. In such a case, one or more of the several resolutions must receive separate consideration and vote at the request of a single member, and the motion for division of a question is not used. Such a demand, which should not be confused as the demand for a division of the assembly, that is, for rising vote, can be made even when another member has the floor, as in, Mr. President, I call for a separate vote on resolution number 3. This demand must be asserted before the question on adopting the series has actually been put into vote. Similarly, a series of amendments to a pending main motion or to a primary amendment, such as substitute, may be offered in one motion. Unless these amendments meet the standard for conforming amendments given in 1215, any member may demand a separate vote on one or more of them. After the others have been voted on together, the amendment or amendments on which separate votes are requested are disposed of. For an example, referring to the example relating to Ernest Dunn's novel Crestwood in 2077, a motion to divide the question may be made either by stating the proposed parts in their entirety or by using a short description of how the division is to be made if it is perfectly clear. In the first instance, the motion would be made thus. Member A obtained the floor. Madam President, I move to divide the resolution into two parts as follows, repeating them as shown in the example in 27.7. Second, the question as to whether to divide the resolution is voted on first. In this case, the chair would doubtless use unanimous consent. Under the shorter form of the motion, it may be made instead as follows. Member A obtained the floor. Madam President, I move to divide the resolution so as to consider separately the question of purchasing the books, or so that the question of purchasing the books be considered separately. Second, the procedure is then the same as in the final case. If the motion for the division prevails, the chair states each of the separated resolutions in full as it is considered.